Good evening from the KTN News Center on this Tuesday night, the 12th day of April 2016. I'm Ben Kitili, our sign language interpreter. At the bottom end of your screen is William Silla. KTN Prime begins now. Now, the tribunal formed to investigate 200 million shillings bribery claims against suspended Supreme Court Judge Philip Tunoy today cross-examined its first witness, journalist Geoffrey Kiplagat. It was Kiplagat who filed an affidavit claiming that he facilitated the payment of the bribe to the judge, under intense questioning from Tunoy's lawyer Fred Ngatia. Geoffrey Kiplagat confirmed that the judge failed to turn up for various meetings which he, Kiplagat, had allegedly arranged with Dr. Evans Kidero's appointment. KTN's associate editor Noah Otieno begins our coverage tonight.
Tuesday would be the day that Kenyans got to see and hear at length from the man Geoffrey Kiplagat, the main witness and whistleblower in the bribery allegations facing suspended Supreme Court Judge Philip Tunoy. Lawyer Fred Ngatia put the former Kass FM journalist on his defense, claiming the alleged exchange of cash was a figment of Geoffrey's imagination. Kiplagat, who accused Philip Tunoy of taking a 200 million shilling bribe from Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero, admitted that the judge did not show up for some of the meetings listed in the affidavit.
You have referred to at paragraph 27 of your affidavit. This is about the judge going to Masailand. We can conclude that incident by you saying whether or not the judge attended. Did he attend?
He was not for attending.
He was not to attend.
He was not for attending.
Kiplagat, however, maintains that he met Tunoy in his chambers at the Supreme Court.
Did you go to the Supreme Court to see the judge?
I went.
Did you find secretary in the judge's chambers?
Two of them.
So the last question I was asking you about incident number 4, the people who can confirm whether you went would be the 2 secretaries, correct?
All right.
Very well.
Kiplagat also claims that the bribe was given at a petrol station in Westlands area, where he claims he was waiting with Tunoy and lawyer Katwa Kigen.
Or is it only you who saw 2 vehicles come in, exchange bags in a well-lit place? It must have been seen by some other people. True or not true?
It is up to them to volunteer if they are there.
Very good. I think I'm giving you enough hint to show you that we regard this as fiction, and I'll demonstrate it to you.
In an interesting twist, Tunoy, through lawyer Fred Ngatia, told the tribunal that Geoffrey Kiplagat indeed called him, but under the assumed persona of Nicholas B. Watt.
The judge takes the position that if you made telephone calls, you are lying that you are Nicholas B. Watt, and as soon as you know you are not Nicholas B. Watt, he'll put you off.
That one is a disgusting observation. How can I be Nicholas? You see, this whole set of people in what you have painted as episodes, these are people who interacted, and these are people who say they don't know me, all of them. So I thought even the judge would tell even you alone the truth.
Ngatia also questioned why Kiplagat's affidavit became public knowledge a whole year after it was sworn, and why, of all the commissioners of oaths, Kiplagat chose a lawyer, Issa Mansour, and lawyer Paul Mwite, representing the JSC in the retirement dispute with Tunoy.
According to your evidence, you went to Issa's office with your handwritten notes, and it is Issa who typed out the affidavit on his laptop or whatever machine he used.
That's how it was done, yeah.
That is how it was done. Did you ever give Mwite a copy of this affidavit?
Definitely, as we did it, it was him who told me he would keep a copy so that if anything happened to me, he would be in the know.
When did you swear the affidavit?
It was November either 22nd or 23rd, 2014.
It's indicated as 22nd November 2014.
Yes, it was on a Sunday.
It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
22nd November 2014. Yeah. So you get it finally in January when you are in Eldoret, right?
Yes, that's right.
The tribunal, led by Chairman Sharad Rao, was scheduled to hold a status conference on Tuesday afternoon to decide whether Kiplagat will be recalled once his testimony has been verified. No, Outino, KTN News.
The Kenyan opposition court has denied reports of discord within the coalition that could lead to a fallout. The coalition's management committee has claimed that some rebel court members are being used by the Rivals Jubilee coalition to spread falsehood about court affairs. KTN's Chris Thairo now reports.
After a series of events and public statements that continue to threaten the unity of the Kenyan opposition coalition, the team mandated to manage any arising matters in court moved to give assurance that all was well.
When you see a member of the coalition who has been characterized as a rebel and is now the one talking about who should be the coalition flag bearer, most of the time you'd find that such a person is making that statement for a self-serving purpose.
We know who their masters are, and we will unflinchingly deal with them and their masters.
The team appeared to agree with reports spreading that indeed there was an MOU signed in December 2012, but they maintained that Ford Kenya party leader Moses Wetangula was not part of the MOU.
The MOU that is there is between Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Amolo Odinga. No one else. So what he says is hearsay. If that has to be spoken about, that MOU.
Of interest is that Tongaren MP Dr. Selesimiu, who represents Ford Kenya in the committee, was conspicuously absent from the press conference.
The contents of that MOU, since it's between two principals, it cannot be revealed, it cannot be exposed to the public with your blessings, with your permission.
And you know, this process of agreeing to that document, it took days, it took months to debate it, to agree on it.
Well, according to CORD's Coalition Management Committee, Kenyans will have to wait a little longer before they unveil their presidential candidate for 2017, and they have their reasons behind the thinking.
That's our secret weapon.
Yeah.
David.
And the elections also have a timetable. Yeah. You know, before the seat is declared vacant, you know, it will be an exercise in futility. There's a time for it. But right now, there are other things which I think are more important.
The coalition is already consulting lawyers on the best mode to use during the presidential nomination process to avert any possible fallout between the principals. Chris Thairo, KTN News.
There is one discussion that is not going to go away anytime soon about how the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy Court will choose their presidential flag bearer in the 2017 presidential election. On the big question discussion tonight, we're asking you, should court now honor the said MOU and let Kalonzo Musyoka be the flag bearer in 2017? Tell us what you think by SMSing your yes or no opinion plus a brief comment to the number 22155. You can also join that conversation on Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. The hashtag is KTN Prime. We shall be sampling your texts and tweets during this live newscast. Elsewhere, now, should the question of whether there is a supreme being influence national policies? Well, it is a question that some would consider personal, but is now eliciting talk from various fronts due to the recent registration of the Society of Atheists in Kenya. The quest by the society to especially see the scrapping of religious studies from school curricula and the word God from the Constitution is one that some are viewing as acts of aggression. KTN's Sharon Mumanya has the details.
Is this certificate marking the official registration of the Atheist in Kenya Society that has elicited a spectrum of reactions, firstly on the constitutionality of this move?
The first sentence in the Constitution of Kenya, in fact in the preamble, it acknowledges the supremacy of the Almighty God.
I even think the preamble was just put there to please the majority of Kenyans at that time when we were passing the Constitution, so that there is no resistance from the religious groups.
The most important is Article 32 of the Constitution, which provides for freedom of religion, opinion and belief. which means that the Constitution recognizes that you have a right to hold a particular religious belief or not to hold any.
Harrison Mumia, founder of the Atheist Society, is on record stating that the organization is campaigning to have religious studies scraped off school curricula.
We are happy that we are currently going through a review of our education system, and my message goes to the Christians. It is wrong to teach Christian religious education in a progressive and diverse country.
Kenya wanataka vikundi vya dini viwe vetted. Ni nani ambaye amevet kikundi kama hiki?
The society also wants to have public religious rallies abolished, the argument being that such rallies disturb the peace of others.
The greatest thing that happens when somebody sets up a crusade near a residential place is that there is too much noise.
This social development is one that many Kenyans have not taken positively, and rather expectedly, as Kenya is a largely religious country, with about 82% being Christians, 11% being Muslims, 2.4% belonging to no religion, and 1.7% of the African traditional religion. The other faiths practiced include Hindu, Buddhism, and Baha'ism.
Inagharimu imani kubwa sana kuamini ya kwamba hakuna Mungu kuliko kuamini kuna Mungu. Kwa hivyo ningependa kusema kwamba haitasaidia jambo lolote kumtoa Mungu katika national anthem yetu.
Na ikiwa kuna grupu ambayo haitaki kuelewa ya kwamba Mungu yupo, wacha wafanye vitu zao na sisi tutafanya zetu. Mungu yupo na Mungu atakuwepo hata kesho na hata milele.
Charles Kanjama, a lawyer and official at the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum, says that every person has freedom of association, but some acts by the Atheism Society point to aggression.
You have, for example, among those who do not believe in God, you have those who are very aggressive and those who are quite mild. In other words, they don't believe in God, but they don't seek to impose their non-belief on others. And there are those who may seek to impose their non-belief on others and stop everyone else from making reference to God, whether it is in school, in public places. And those ones, of course, are a concern, because effectively what they are trying to do, even though they don't realize it, is to take away our liberties.
Coming against a conservative and largely religious Kenyan society, the move to officially register the Atheism Society in Kenya is one that many still do not understand and regard as a move in the wrong direction. Yet still others recognize this as a freedom for all and a progressive move. But which way is it? Sharon Momanyi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Well, let's now switch gears to the coast. A son of the Matuga Member of Parliament Hassan Mwanyoha has been sentenced to death by a Kwale court. Mafanikio Hassan Mwanyoha, also known as Fani Hussein Hassan, and his co-accused Ali Hussein Hassan were charged for violently robbing a tourist in Diani. The two were not represented in court, were given 14 days to appeal the ruling. The duo also has another case of robbery with violence before the Mombasa High Court.
19th August 2015. The guy grabbed away the bag.
Still at the Kenyan coast, health officials in Mombasa are raising the red flag over 114 cases of hepatitis A that have been confirmed in the city. Fear has gripped residents of Mombasa following revelations that the disease was spreading fast in Mvita, Changamwe, Kisauni and Likoni. KTN's coast reporter Francis Ontoma has an update.
Confirmed at least 114 cases so far reported.
Panic has gripped the port city after revelations that more and more cases of hepatitis A were being recorded. News that have now prompted county health officials to hold a crisis meeting to discuss ways of averting the deadly disease. No death has ever been reported yet, with most patients referred to Coast General Hospital for treatment.
11 million shillings has been set aside to deal with drugs that will be required to deal with this situation.
Investigations have revealed that consumption of unsafe water and food has largely played trigger to worrying state of affairs, and a mission to avert the crisis has been initiated.
We are going to inspect all water packaging companies, all companies that are bottling water are going to be subjected to some tests.
Rogue water companies escape scrutiny by the state, increasingly making presence in Mombasa, where they cash in on the high temperatures associated with the city. These companies, KTN has learnt, operate with impunity, packing substandard contents and then lining up sellers on popular streets where they sell at low prices to unsuspecting Kenyans. A syndicate that has gone unchecked, raking millions of shillings at the expense of the lives of Kenyans.
Wasiangali kiu inakukaba na inabidi tu ukunywe maji, unanunua tu kwa njia na unakunywa hivyo hivyo. So saa nyingine you just unaomba tu Mungu mwenyewe tu atu protect.
Mimi kwa kusema ukweli, kiu ikishanishika nikipata maji na kunywa. Huwa hakuna time ya kuangalia ni brand gani, ni maji ya kutoka wapi. Maana tukishawekewa tunaamini kuwa ni maji masafi.
Most residents say they fail to check keenly the details of bottled water so long as the seal is intact. Questions then emerge on why authorities are always caught napping until tragedy strikes.
Maji kwa kweli sasa imekuwa kila mtu anakuja anatengeza maji, anatoboa hata kama ni chupa pande ya nyuma anaweka maji na kunywa. Unakuta maji wale watu wanakunywa mengi ni ya kisima, hayajatibiwa, watoto wanakunywa.
The water nowadays are contaminated. There are some business people who are just taking any water from anywhere which is not treated. They put in the bottles, they seal them and then they sell them because they are after money.
The hepatitis A virus affects the liver and is transmitted through the ingestion of contaminated food and water or through direct contact with an infected person.
We are also going to work very closely with community health workers who are out there because they know specifically where some of these areas of contamination are.
One of the deadliest cases of the disease was recorded in 1988 in Shanghai, China, where about 300,000 people were affected.
Concern and fear is mounting here in Mombasa, and according to the World Health Organization, if not properly contained, hepatitis A can spread fast and become an epidemic. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
We are keeping an eye on that developing story for you. We shall be keeping the public informed with the latest information from the Health Ministry. The Kenyan Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee has today formally received a draft of the Boresha Katiba referendum bill spearheaded by a section of Jubilee members of Parliament. Now, the initiative recommends, among other issues, the amendment of the Constitution to list corruption as a capital offence punishable by death. Now, as KTN's Moremi Mwangi now reports, the committee has also extended an opportunity to the CORD coalition to revive their Okoa Kenya referendum push.
Barely 3 weeks after the IEBC choked CORD's Okoa Kenya referendum drive,
I'd requested your clerk that...
Tiati MP Asman Kamama has formally unleashed the Boresha Katiba referendum draft before Parliament's Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee, with an offer to the CORD brigade to revive their flopped Okoa Kenya drive by adding their referendum issues to the Boresha Katiba draft.
That quite a number of what we are proposing are not really far from Okoa Kenya. So we welcome Okoa Kenya on board, and anytime when they are ready, we can always meet together.
During the sitting, the committee disclosed that the Okoa Kenya team and the proponents of the Pesa Mashinani drive have not yet presented their drafts, despite requests by the commission for them to do so.
This formula to reduce the current constituencies from 290 to a certain number that's manageable is to go back to our former constituencies. And that is 210.
Yes, we do need to reduce the expenditure of the legislature and all that, but how to implement it? Some are not implementable.
But the opposition coalition still mum on whether they have plans to revive the Okoa Kenya drive and the Pesa Mashinani push yet to take shape. The committee is now questioning whether all the proponents of the amendment of the 2010 constitution are seriously committed to their initiatives.
Referendums are always held during elections. Well, let us do it during elections, for the coming elections, so that it is a 70 question. And that way, we shall not polarize the country, and everybody will be talking like a Kenyan.
I think we could improve it, because I believe also we are not just nominating women and then next time they get lost. I think if they are elected to deal with the affirmative action question.
The 7 women reps, are they necessary? We represent women as much as
where I come from, we represent women. I come from Katanga. Hold on. No, here we are contributing. Yeah.
Now, the court brigade has been quiet in the past few weeks regarding their plans to revive the Okoa Kenya referendum push. And with barely 16 months to the August 2017 polls, Kenyans are now asking questions regarding the seriousness of the various political players to amend the country's 2010 constitution. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Speaking of court, the opposition coalition has denied reports of discord within it in terms of choosing the presidential flag bearer in 2017 over a reported MOU signed between Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. On the big question discussion, we are asking you, should court now honor the MOU and let Kalonzo be the flag bearer in 2017? Keep your texts and tweets coming. Now, the number of those people who lost their lives in road accidents and those who are seriously injured rose between, that is the period between January 1st and April 10th, rose as compared to the same period last year, that is 2015. After this quick commercial break, we shall be looking at those very worrying statistics and seeking to put those numbers into perspective. We shall be talking to the Principal Secretary in charge of Transport, Wilson Nyakera Irungu. Stand by for that. Welcome back to KTN Prime. Now, the number of Kenyans who lose their lives from road carnage every year has been increasing and has been a concern for many Kenyans. Let's take a look at some statistics from the Ministry of Transport. Now, between the period between January 1st and April 10th, 2015, that is last year, the number of people who died from road accidents was 816. Those seriously injured, 1,152, and those slightly injured, 1,108. The total number of victims, 3,076. Let's take a look at those similar statistics, but in the same period in the year 2016. Those who lost their lives, 925. That is an increase. Those who are seriously injured, again, rose to 1,531. Those who are slightly injured from road accidents in the period between January 1st and April 10th this year, 1,856. The total number of victims, 4,312. Now, let's take a look at this year alone, the same period, the number of fatalities and how they are distributed. Now, pedestrians, that is the highest number of Kenyans who lost their lives in this period. 350 pedestrians lost their lives. Drivers, 86. 183 passengers lost their lives from road accidents in that period this year. And the number of pedocyclists, that is from bicycles, 19. A statistic that has been worrying Kenyans is this one here. Motorcyclists, 116 of them have so far died. Now, in the same period, in the year 2016, the same fatalities, pedestrians rose to 359. The number of drivers who lost their lives rose to 109. Passengers rose to 200. Pedocyclists, 27. And motorcyclists who died from road accidents rose to 159. Now let's bring in.
Thank you for keeping it KTN. Kenyans with deposits at Chase Bank might have to wait 2 weeks before they can access their monies. Depositors with 100,000 shillings and below will not lose their money but get 100% of the amount banked. The governor and receiver as well as shareholders are set to review their finances and agree on the time to issue out the money to depositors. However, depositors with an amount above 100,000 shillings will have to wait for a comprehensive statement of affairs from the Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation. Since Chase Bank was placed under receivership, over 50,000 customers have been uncertain on the fate of their deposits and how soon they will get access to their finances.
The big question on my head right now at that particular moment was how will I run my business? How suddenly we don't have any money. We are up from up there, we're going back to zero. We are on our knees. But I think my encouragement to other SMEs is, I think it's high time for us to spread our monies in different accounts. That could be a solution for now. And then to always make sure that we are proactive in looking at and asking questions in these banks. You know, at the end of the day, when you go to a bank, you are up to or just opening the account. You don't know what actually happens in the background. So, but I think it's high time for us to continuously ask when you go to a bank. Ask the hard questions. Is my money safe with you? Ask the big questions regarding how the structures are in place within the bank.
Tea farmers are now calling on members of the National Assembly to fast-track the enactment of laws aimed at pushing the Agriculture Ministry to set aside a stabilization fund to cushion tea farmers against bad prices currently received from processed teas. This follows the constant fluctuation of tea prices in the world market, and the fund would help cushion small-scale farmers against low prices.
Battered by falling prices, tea farmers have often threatened to uproot the crop if the government won't come to their aid and cushion them against the unpredictable market dynamics that have seen small-scale tea farmers earn low prices from their crop at a time when inflationary rates and cost of living is too high. Just after being re-elected for the second time as the director of KTDA, Betty is appealing to the tea sector players to search for more markets for Kenyan tea if small-scale tea farmers are to benefit from their crop. Currently, 70% of the output goes to 5 countries with a taste for Kenyan black tea. One of them is Britain, the former colonial power which established tea planting in Kenya on large scale in the 1940s, but whose domestic consumption has reached a plateau. The other are Egypt, Sudan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, where political turmoil frequently hits the purchases. In 2014, the government had promised to review down tea taxes in its effort to harmonize charges in the industry, but to date, little has been achieved, with farmers now running out of patience. Philip Keitan, KTN Business.
Devolution's goal was primarily to bring services closer to the people through development of infrastructure. However, in Kakamega County, it's a bittersweet taste of devolution as demand for housing has shot up, and housing and land rates in the county as well have shot up. KTN's Victor Ogale reports.
With the influx of mushrooming malls and institutions of higher learning, Kakamega town is among the fast-growing economies in the West Kenya region. Positive as the rise seems to the county's economy, the locals seem to tell a different story, that of high cost of living. Sitaha Lubembe is a resident and a businessman in Kakamega and has lived here for the past 4 years, but is worried that the hike in housing rates could have a ripple effect on other goods and services.
Sasa wewe mtu wa chini kama mimi ukienda leo anakuambia okay, nyumba nimeongeza. Kama utaki watu wengi wanataka nyumba.
Sitaha is not alone. Meters away, Oscar Ajega runs an electrical shop and has been doing so since 1997. In a span of 5 years, he says his rental rates have shot up to 15,500 shillings from 7,000 shillings.
I believe when population goes up, demand also goes up, and suppliers also have taken advantage of that.
According to the county statistics of 2015, the population influx in the town increases at a rate of 1,000 people per year. To deal with this, the county, through the Ministry of Lands, Housing, Urban and Physical Planning, have planned to put up 1,000 units of residential houses to accommodate the growing numbers. Kakamega County has seen the growth of real estate, with developers cashing in on the ever-growing population with a further increase in land prices. Victor Ogale, KTN News, in the county of Kakamega.
Kenya Pipeline Company is rebranding to Africa's premier oil and gas company in an effort to exploit emerging opportunities in the oil and gas sector in a number of African countries. In a notice in the dailies, KPC is looking for a rebranding consultant to help draw the path to becoming one of Africa's premier entities in oil and gas. The intended KPC rebranding will entail the creation and rollout of a new corporate identity and accompanying communication strategy, development of a sustainable brand, internalization strategy and roadmap throughout the entire organization. Kenya Pipeline Company currently serves Uganda, Rwanda, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, Northern Tanzania, Burundi and South Sudan. CFC Stanbic has launched a series of inter-regional and cross-border trade to assist its clients to identify business opportunities in different trading blocks, according to the bank's economist for East Africa region, Gibran Kereshi. With South Africa bracing for a sovereign credit downgrade and reevaluation of Nigerian currency looming, Kenya is in a pole position to attract investors. And Standard Bank head of commercial banking in Africa, Manessa Alebaso, said that the landscape in East Africa has changed to create opportunities for savvy investors who are prepared to make long-term business commitments within the region. He added that in moments of economic uncertainty, as is the case with many world economies now, improving trade within the region will be crucial to keep trade volumes high. We'll now take a look at how the money markets performed. The Kenya shilling continues to remain steady, and we'll take a look at how the listed companies performed.
The Financial Report, in association with Standard Chartered Mortgage, the mortgage that gives you more than just your dream.
A very good evening and welcome to today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahisi. Today we start with some positive news about our ladies, and this is soccer. After a 1-1 draw against Algeria, Kenya has qualified and they're going to be taking part in their first ever Africa Cup of Nations tournament. Harambee Stars settled for a 2-2 draw in the first leg away to Algeria, and they now join 7 other teams in the continental tournament that is set to start in November in Cameroon.
It was a match where all was at stake for Harambee Starlets, who were counting on the home advantage to go through to the Africa Cup of Nations. But it was the visitors who scored first, netting in on the 23rd minute. Starlets missed numerous chances going into the break. The second half seemed tough for Starlets despite a huge ball possession. Cherish Salano, however, equalized for the Starlets to restore their hopes. As Kenyans celebrated, it was tears for the visitors.
Nili feel vizuri vile niliingia na nika change game because ni dream ya every player ukiingia kwa field at least usaidie team ku qualify ama ku win.
I'll come up with a plan as a coach for the next 6 months, and of course I would like to refresh my players to come in respective. For example, every month we assemble in trainings, and in the FIFA calendar, if possible, we have at least 3 friendly international matches. Then the girls will be ready for the tournament in Cameroon.
The Starlets AFCON qualification seems to have awakened the hunger for success amongst women footballers.
Najua tuko na future kama dem sai juu venye Harambee wametufanyia leo tuko mbele.
Hatujaibishwa na Harambee Stars, at least leo wametuchangamsha, nenda home kaa tumefurahi.
Kwa Starlet ni kuzuri because tumeshinda na opportunity ya wasichana wengine wadogo itaanza kuonekana.
Harambee Starlets got into this match well aware that coming close enough does not count. They will now join 7 other African teams who will take part in the 2016 Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon in December this year. Lynn Washira, KTN.
Thank you, Lynn, for that piece, and now let's hope that the government is going to give the ladies the maximum support that they require. Moving on, members of the Kenyan Parliament have begun debate on the anti-doping bill in a bid to beat the extended May 2nd World Anti-Doping Agency deadline. MPs led by Majority Leader Aden Duale vowed to fast-track this event so as to avoid Kenya being declared non-compliant by WADA, an outcome that will also see the country banned from competing in all international competition, and that includes the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro.
Every night when we watch televisions, they get number 1 to number 7. And I'm sure there are many people in the world today who are waiting for Kenya not to beat this deadline.
This law must have the capacity to ensure that agents are kept in check. This law must have the capacity, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that pharmaceutical firms or pharmaceutical agencies that engage in the manufacture and marketing of these banned substances are dealt with decisively.
I have my own reservations in terms of why the international world is putting us pressure as if we are the only African country appearing in that Olympic Games.
It's indeed important that we must enhance those penalties that can work as a deterrent. Remember, these sports people, Mr. Speaker, money is not an issue to them. The sports people, the much money they earn, Mr. Speaker, the politicians cannot reach anywhere. I know there are many politicians who have come here through the sponsorship of some sports people.
Now that bill goes back to the House Committee, and they're going to be just making some amendments. And before that, we're going to be having the third reading before the President assent it and make it officially a law. Now moving on, Narok boys began their hockey title defense on a losing note after going down 1-0 to host Kamusinga as the national school secondary games kicked off in Bungoma County. In basketball, Kayati produced a very, very impressive performance past Buruburu Girls with a resounding 51-23 win as Kakamega boys brushed aside Maseno in rugby. Robinson Okenya now reports.
Brookside Kenya Secondary School Sports Association highlights in association with Brookside Dairies. Brookside, nurturing sporting talent and academics.
It was a case of getting the first foot forward for different teams as the National Term 1 games took off at Friends School Kamusinga in Bungoma County. In rugby, with defending champions Leisa Hill missing in action, rivalry was renewed as Maseno boys squared off with 2013 champions Kakamega in the first match of the day. Kakamega were quick to show their intentions of getting all the points from the match as winger Wiseman Agaya gave them a deserved lead. Crisantes Ojuang was a turn to give Kakamega the second try of the match before Maseno replied with 2 quick penalties. A try and a penalty in the second half gave Kakamega a 17-9 win.
Yes, we're getting a try.
In another match, Moisirigo emerged 10-0 winners over Kangaroo School from Embu. In basketball, Alliance boys began their championship quest on a high after emerging winners over Kabsabet. Alliance took a 13-12 lead in the first quarter before taking a 31-20 lead at the break. In the third and final halves, Alliance were firing on all cylinders to get a 54-52 win. In the ladies' tie, Buruburu found the going tough against Kayatiwi as they failed to match their opponent's pace. Kayatiwi outmuscled them to a 51-23 win. In hockey, it was a repeat of last year's finals as defending champions Narok boys took on hosts Kamusinga. The hosts, however, had the last laugh as they took the honors with a 1-0 win. The organizers of the tournament are hoping the students will use the opportunity to showcase their talents.
Show the sporting talent, but at the same time, we are also keen in academics. We are encouraging our students to be both good in sports and academics.
With defending champions in a majority of games missing out from this year's tournament, it's up to the teams that are taking part in these games to bag the prestigious trophies. Robinson Okenya, KTN Sports in Bungoma County.
Brookside and Strathmore University are offering all-rounded East African boys and girls the chance to win a university scholarship. Play at Term 1 school games in Bungoma County and get spotted for final selection to attend a boot camp in December. Score A- in KCSE and you will get shortlisted for the final selection to win a university scholarship. Brookside, nurturing sports talents and promoting academics.
A former high-ranking soccer official in the Americas pleaded guilty on Monday to charges that he participated in bribery schemes uncovered in a U.S. investigation of corruption in the sports world governing body, and that's FIFA. Alfred Hoyt, a former FIFA vice president from Honduras who also led the North and Central America and Caribbean Confederation, CONCACAF, pleaded guilty in the federal court in Brooklyn, New York, to 4 conspiracy charges. Howitt is one of the 42 individuals and entities charged as a part of the USA investigations of more than $250 million in bribes and kickbacks sought and also received by soccer officials for marketing and also broadcast rights to tournaments and also different matches across the world. And currently the Champions League matches are currently on. Manchester City against PSG and Real Madrid against Wolfsburg. Let's wait and see which results these teams are going to be providing. And with that, we do wind up today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahesi. Enjoy your night.
KTN weather in association with Team Do.
No longer, because I bought Mortein Doom Power Guard, which kills 100% mosquitoes. Mortein Doom Power Guard kills 100% mosquitoes.
On the big question tonight, we are talking about the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy Courts choosing its presidential flag bearer in 2017 following reports of an MOU between Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. Court today denied reports of discord within the opposition coalition. And on the big question we asked you, should court now honor the MOU and let Kalonzo be flag bearer in 2017? Isa Hassan says, I think the MOU tells it all. Kalonzo stood firm with Raila before. They should now look to stand with him. Wilson Joroge says, seems like Raila learned from his brother Kibaki on how not to respect MOUs. Chiponda Harrison says, no, without Raila Odinga, court will lose terribly to JAB. MOUs have always been the zone. Paul Mwani says, the MOU is invalid because Raila never won the election. Kalonzo, reread the MOU carefully. And finally, one here from Masiamo says, no, not when Raila Odinga is still alive. There would never be a different candidate for court. Maybe a fallout and a new party. And lastly, Antonio Brianto says, yes, and Weta running mate, Baba is tired. Many thanks for your tweets and texts here on the big question and for joining us on your most qualified news bulletin in town. After this on KTN News, Sophia Nuna will be coming up with the last word. You do not want to miss the conversation tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.